Welcome to my Monaco race review. So let's begin with the stuff that started before the race even begun, with Leclerc crashing in qualifying. It's suspected that he had a drive shaft issue with his car, and as a result he was unable to start the race from his pole position, despite the fact that he became the first ever Monegasque pole sitter in Monaco. And had he won today, he would have become the first Monaco winner from Monaco in 90 years, since Louis Chiron did it in 1931. But when the race started, it was actually a very interesting start, as Bottas had a better start than Verstappen. However, Verstappen led into turn 1 ahead of Bottas, and then Sainz and Norris and Gasly, and then Hamilton. However, as the race progressed, things were a bit boring and not much was happening. But when the only pit stops came, that was when the race really turned on its head, and Verstappen was comfortably leading from Bottas. However, Mercedes had a massive miscalculation, not only with Bottas on the pit stop, but with Hamilton's strategy, as there was two drivers' strategies who were absolutely insane. Sergio Perez, who started from 9th place, ended up by the end of the race finishing just off the podium, and Sebastian Vettel, who started in 8th and finished just behind Perez. Now, the reason why this happened was because Red Bull did an overcut, with Aston Martin running the exact same strategy as Red Bull, which means basically you go much longer than all the other cars do in the race. Because of this, Perez gained a crap ton of time, and as a result finished 4th place. Because he was in clean air, because the gap between him and Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz and Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas, because it was so big, and also because everyone in front of him had pitted long before he did, he had time to get in some good laps in the clean air, and as a result jumped everyone that was in front of him up until Norris, as in front of him were Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, and he jumped every single one of them in the pit stops. And Lance Stroll also did the same thing, having an incredibly long overcut, and he somehow managed to pull off P8 in his Aston Martin. And on to the other Aston Martin, Sebastian Vettel, with Seb doing the exact same as Lance, but pitting much earlier than both Stroll and Perez, with Vettel doing an overcut and doing the exact same as Perez did, but as I said, pitting much earlier in the race, but he got a massive overcut and gained lots of time as a result of this. And then you had the issues Hamilton had, and Gasly as well. They pitted too early, as both Vettel and Perez were behind them, and they were fighting each other for what was then 8th place. However, after the pit stops occurred, Bottas had his issue, and as a result was forced into retirement, when his tyres just could not come off, and the wheel nut was stuck. As a result, he had to retire, and Carlos Sainz moved up into 2nd, and Lando Norris into 3rd, and Max Verstappen comfortably led the race. And this was when it started to get a bit boring, of course, typical Monaco. But meanwhile, Perez was closing up to Norris due to the fact that he did an overcut not only on the 4 guys in front of him, but also the car in front of him then, which was Norris. And he closed right up. But due to the dirty air effect that you get in Monaco, he was unable to keep up, with the only driver really being able to keep up with the car in front of him was Antonio Giovinazzi and Esteban Ocon, who were battling over what would become 9th place by the end of the race. As by the end of the race, Verstappen won it, with 2nd being Sainz, getting a much-deserved podium for Ferrari, their best finish since the first race of 2020, in which Lando Norris finished 3rd coincidentally, and he did in the Monaco Grand Prix, with 4th place going to Sergio Perez in a fantastic race for him, in which he not only caught up to Lando Norris in the championship, well, not caught up necessarily, but he was very close to him in the championship, but he also got past Leclerc and caught right up to Valtteri Bottas. Lando Norris did move up to 3rd in the Drivers' Championship, with Verstappen taking the lead of the drivers. The big movers in the Constructors' Championship being both Red Bull and Aston Martin, with Red Bull taking the lead off of Mercedes, with Mercedes running just behind Red Bull in 2nd place. 3rd was still McLaren, but they had lost a lot of ground to Ferrari due to Sainz's 2nd place. Behind McLaren was Aston Martin, Alpine and AlphaTauri, who were looking to have their own fight for 5th place, with it being Aston Martin, then AlphaTauri and Alpine, with Alfa Romeo scoring their first points of the season, running just ahead of Williams and Haas, who were looking to improve on what was a disastrous start to the season for both teams, in what was a very disastrous round for Mercedes. Meanwhile, in 5th place was a stunned Sebastian Vettel, who probably had a nosebleed, getting his best finish since Turkey 2020, when he finished on the podium, of course, getting a one-off podium with Ferrari that year. Then behind him was Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton, who was very disappointed with just 7th place, and behind him was Lance Stroll in the other Aston Martin. Then P9 was Esteban Ocon in his Alpine, 10th place was Antonio Giovinazzi, and the rest of the drivers did not score points, including Kimi Räikkönen, Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda, George Russell, Nicholas Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Charles Leclerc, Valtteri Bottas, Daniel Ricciardo, and Nikita Mazepin. I've been your host, Liam Plutner, and thank you very much for watching.